Are you a businesswoman who's finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. If you want to see how your presentation skills are doing, please go to our free 4-minute assessment at www.speakforresultsquiz.com. Elizabeth uses her 30 years of experience as an opera director to help business professionals become better presenters. This special series explores the relationship between business and art. And now, on to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. This is the part of the special series where we're talking about what business can learn from the arts. And I am so happy to have my guest here today, Christine Goerke. I'm really excited, and I have to actually open up her bio is so long and involved. I'm just going to give you the condensed version because otherwise we'd be here all day. But soprano Christine Goerke has appeared in the major opera houses of the world, including the Metropolitan Opera, Lyric Opera of Chicago, San Francisco Opera, Deutsche Oper Berlin, La Scala, and many, many, many others. She's also sung with most of the great orchestras around the world. She's sung the great soprano repertoire, starting with Mozart and Handel, which I think is what you were doing when we first met, and you were a young artist, yep?
Yep.
I was working backstage, so in those days. And now she is earning critical acclaim for the dramatic Strauss and Wagner roles. These are the loud ladies, like Elektra, Turandot, Brunhilde in the Ring cycle. She was the recipient of the Richard Tucker Award, which is given to one singer a year, big deal. The 2015 Musical America Vocalist of the Year Award, and the 2017 Opera News Award. And what I love about Christine is that she's a soprano who thinks, which isn't always the case with singers. I, love singers and spent 30 years working with them. It's not always an asset for a singer to have a brain, to have a major, to really think hard. Yeah, you're saying?
Yeah.
So Christine, welcome to Speakers Who Get Results.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. The first thing I want to start with is, who would be your dream interview? If you could interview somebody from history who's no longer with us, who would it be? What would you ask them? And who should be listening?
It's very funny. I thought about this question because, the broadest term, history, I could certainly speak to anyone. But as far as the direction that my mind and my life hopefully is going to be taking me in the next 25 years, the people that I would like to speak to who are no longer with us are people that we've lost rather recently in the grand scheme of history. There are two women that I would love to speak to. I would love to speak to Artis Kranick and also Beverly Sills. These two ladies were both singers, very famous. Beverly Sills was, before she was a general director of New York City Opera. And Artis Kranick was also a singer, but she sort of came into being the general director of the Lyric Opera of Chicago through the long haul. She took a job as a typist at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and she sang some mezzo-soprano roles and sort of learned the ropes from the inside out. So when she was appointed general director, I believe in 1982, until she served through 1997, she had found out everything she could from the inside out. But they both made unbelievable strides where women were not necessarily making strides at the time, and they were really trailblazers.
Yeah. Managing multi-million-dollar budgets. Thank you very much. Let's mention that.
Absolutely.
Well, don't talk about that, but it is, yeah.
Yeah, and in an arena where, most of the budget comes from donor-based income. So that's an entirely other thing. And that's part of what I think I would ask them about. Who should be listening? Anybody in the arts, I don't think anybody, honestly. I mean, these are women who stepped out of the bounds of where they belonged, and they stepped into a leadership position and not only led effectively, they created huge profits and a new system for the companies that they worked for, and very successful ones. The arts, as with any company, I suppose, they really need to change with the times. And these ladies were able to do that in a very, very big way. I think that anybody should be listening.
Yeah, any business needs to change with the times. It's true. It's really, it's really, and it's hard to do that, especially if you're at an institution, a large company. The arts are a business.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are a business, which take advantage of a lot of people's passion to where people will work for free because they love it so much, but it really is a business.
Well, it has to be a business. I mean, it takes money to make art happen, but at the same time, there has to be a very fine balance with the arts, I believe. We cannot, there's a saying, nobody goes into the arts to make money. I mean, that's just not what we do. But that said, there has to be a balance between budgetary considerations, running the business, dealing with the board, and actually paying attention to the art that is coming out of the business.
Yes.
And I think that's a fine line to walk in general.
I remember very early in my career, I worked at the San Diego Opera, and I would do shows directed by the great Tito Capobianco, and who was also the general director of the company. And he was constantly late to rehearsals because he would stop by the office beforehand, and he was directing a show. He was also balancing all the general director stuff. And when I first started there was a very sardonic stage manager who would come up to him and say, "Hey, do you have any time for the product? Hello, this is the product, this show that we're putting on." Yeah. But yeah, it's easy to get involved. It's actually one of those things, it's a classic thing in business and management, is that the higher you go, the farther you get from the actual product. Indeed. And there are times, I did a series of trainings for a major construction company. And one of the things, I was working for the employee resource groups to help them, step forward and future leaders. And one of the questions I would ask the people who said, I'm going to put myself forward as a leader. And I said, you have to think about this, is the more you are in the administration, the farther you get from the actual product. And there were a couple of them who said, I really love being an electrical foreman, and I'm going to miss getting my hands dirty. So let me just be the best I can be at this point. But I don't think I want to go into administration because I really want to be connected to the bones of this building as it goes up. And it's the same sort of thing with any kind of creation. If you're creating a software or creating a widget that you sell, creating a program, creating an opera or a concert. Yeah. So tell us what you think, what have you learned about standing out and visibility and standing out as a leader?
It's very funny when I tell people that I was wildly introverted when I was younger, they don't believe me. It took the arts to bring me out of me. That was the worst grammar I have ever used in my life. You're welcome. But you know what I mean?
Yes, that works.
Yeah, fine. But it was very interesting because even in the beginnings of my career, it was always a surprise to me that I was actually having a career. And when you start out in the arts, I think when you're younger, we had a conversation about this at one point, it's fun. It's a wonderful, fun thing. It's new to you. It's all, travel, stage, magic, and, can't quite say glamour because sometimes you're not very glamorous, but it is wonderful and really exciting. And the further along you go, if you are as lucky as I have been to do this, and I've been doing this for 26 years now, which astonishes me every day, it becomes something different. You don't necessarily lose your love for it, but you really do start to understand that it is a business and you have to run your life as though it is one. Yeah. If you end up in a position where your visibility, it becomes something strong, and it must be taken with equal parts of responsibility. You are in a position to stand strong for things, especially in the arts. You are very visible. Social media has become a huge part of our lives. So keeping a social media presence, keeping the right social media presence, knowing what kind of things to share, what kind of things are not to be public. Everyone's entitled to whatever they want to feel, but what is it that you want to put out to your audience? And this has been a huge learning curve, and it's something that I work with a lot of young singers. This is something that is the first thing I tell them. The internet is forever. Be very careful about the you that you put out there.
Yeah, and your image, your personal brand, if you will.
Absolutely.
When you are so lucky, another thing that you had were sponsors and allies, which is very important in a career. So anybody who's listening who is thinking about career, talk a little bit about sponsors, mentors, and allies. And in your mind, what's the difference?
Well, there are sponsors who are allies. That doesn't necessarily mean that those two things are always combined. I've had sponsors in the way of monetary sponsors, people who have foundations who wanted to get behind my product. They saw that, and to me, this is the funny thing, and I suspect it's the same across any business. If one person buys into what you are doing and becomes a sponsor, suddenly everyone wants a piece.
Yeah.
So if you get the right person to take interest, you can very carefully and wisely use that to drum up more interest. That's
leverage, and that's a good piece. That's a good part of leveraging. Yes, absolutely. And
so what we do, singers, when we were younger, we do a lot of competitions. So we all dress up in our finest and we wander out and we sing our bits. And, the judges, who are generally people who are higher up in our business, people who are perhaps casting directors, other singers, people who are agents, people who have artistic casting abilities within companies, they all speak to other people as well. As far as that works, those people could be sponsors if they hand you some money, which is lovely. I also find that sometimes when you are looking for sponsorship, that is also a huge part of networking. Just because you don't get a sponsorship, it doesn't mean that you have failed. You have spoken to people who may speak to other people about you. So this is a huge portion of that for me. Allies, we always find the people who want to help us. The people that want to help us aren't necessarily the ones who have the money to back us, but that isn't the only way to help. The networking, like I just mentioned, and sharing of ideas. Brainstorming sessions between my colleagues and I have been huge.
Oh yeah.
So,
consulting allies who are peers is a big deal. Yeah.
It's a very big deal because that requires a lot of trust, especially if you're in a business where you're technically competing with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. There's only one person gets to sing Brunhilde each night. So,
well, that's true, but I mean, that's something that's really lovely about this new repertoire that I've gone into. You talked about, the big, I always laugh because when I speak to people who don't know opera, I say, You've seen Bugs Bunny, Spear and Magic Helmet. I'm Bugs Bunny. So that's it. But, there's not a lot of us that do that. So I'm very lucky to have gone from being the little fish in the big pool to being a big fish in a little pool. And because there are only so many of us who do what I do, I can't say there's no competition. We all are always wondering, why is she getting, there's always that, what's going on right now? But there's really no ill feeling. And if I wanted to shoot off an email to a colleague who does the same thing that I do and say, I'm having a problem with this. I heard you do this. What do you do?
Yes.
They will tell you in a moment. There's no danger of them losing a job over sharing information. So if you are lucky enough to find that kind of rapport with your peers, that is really important.
Yeah. That's sponsors and mentors can make a huge difference in one's career. And one of the things that has helped me a lot is to find people who are outside my business, but who know people in my business.
Absolutely.
And that was something when I was running Top Opera, and I did that 11 years, and we had a lot of young singers. I would always remind them that the people who weren't the other singers, that to go talk to the audience, the people, because they are the customer. They're the people who've come to pay to come see you. And in a business where fewer than 5% ever wind up doing it, and fewer than 5% of them wind up lasting more than 10 years, chances are very good that that little lady who comes because she loves Mozart had the same training you did, but took a different path, chose not to do that. And so these are people you want to keep around you. It is something, if you're at, where you are, you're sort of at sea level, comparable to being sea level at a corporation. You are one of the top sopranos in the world. And things might change. As you said, companies might change, the business changes, or somebody else comes along who's also wants your job. And
younger and cheaper is what you're saying? Yes.
Yeah. Younger and cheaper. There is always that. Yes. Yeah. The world loves the Wunderkind. They always, everybody wants to know who's hot, who's new, who's great. So,
but isn't that something that's an interesting balance as well, though? It is something that the world does want. And there are brilliant young people who are coming up, and I can say that because now I've hit the big 5-0. Use the words young people now. But,
yes.
But I mean, there is certainly room for everyone. And the new ideas that are coming in from someone who is, say, 25, straight out of college, ready to do this, they are going to bring something different to it, but it doesn't negate the knowledge or experience that I bring to it.
That's a great way to put it. That your experience and knowledge is just as valuable. Yeah, exactly. It's here's another thought. So this is something about making a presentation. This is a question I get from speakers all the time, which is speakers, they're asked to talk about their specialty. And there are a lot of other people who do that. So a lot of times I say speakers will say, I don't know what makes me new. I don't know what makes me different. Or is it the same old thing? How do I make it new and for me? So here you are singing repertoire, some of which is 200 years old, and we've been listening to it for a long time. How do you make a performance you? How do you make it interesting? People who've seen it a million times.
People have been given information through this medium, through this opera, thousands of times. But people haven't seen me do it. And what is different about when I step on stage, when you step on stage, when someone else steps on stage, they are bringing their own experience. They are bringing their own life stories. They are bringing their own emotions and their reactions. Largely what I do is not just about music. This is the cool thing about opera. You know, the music is beautiful. Yes, we have to sing. But we have, oh, look, I just happen to have a score right here. What? And lots of them here. But, you know, we will open up a score and have a ton of words, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got the text. When someone wants to tell a story, let's say, okay, everybody's sort of heard, you know, Good Night Moon or The Cat in the Hat. Mm-hmm. If two different people read that story, you will get two different understandings of how it should go. Mm-hmm. If 5 different people read that story, you will get 5 different interpretations of how that should go. On any given day, that person could read that story to you again, and something else might have happened to them in the week between the last time that they've heard it. They'll give you a different interpretation of what that story is yet again. So I will say that it is impossible to relay the same information in the same way because there are no two people that are the same.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's very important for speakers and presenters is you're also bringing your background and your specialized knowledge and why it matters to you and so that you can make it matter to the audience. And really communicating. That's another important thing.
And bringing a different perspective, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's the same information, it doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from the same perspective. That's important to remember as well.
Can we talk a little bit about, I'm going to ask you about branding later. I want to ask you about an international life. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are in business who before pre-COVID-19 were on airplanes all the time.
Right.
Going back and forth and going to meetings around the world. Now we're doing it all on Zoom. So we're recording this during the COVID-19 shutdown. And we don't quite know what's going to happen next. But talk about what you've learned about cultural differences. If you're doing the same role in a different country.
It's very interesting. It depends upon the audience, really. Directors who get a hold of what we do, you know, we singers, we turn up, they say, right, this is the piece that we're doing. Great. I come and I have my role memorized. I'm ready to go. Again, we just talked about this. I know my text. I know what I would like to say. I know what the music does. The director will have a completely different idea, you know, and this is part of collaboration, which is important. You know, my job is not to lose myself while still doing what I am being asked to do. I think it's interesting because depending on where I will be working, the results that ends up on the stage is because the general director, the head of the company, understands their public, understands their audience, knows what kind of product to offer them to keep them involved. I will go to one part of the world where things have to be unbelievably conservative. They have to be very, I don't want to use the words old-fashioned, but in a way, old-fashioned in the grand scheme of what I do today. You know, there's a term that they used to talk about with opera singers, and that's park and bark. and people would march out on stage.
Park and bark?
Yes, park and bark. Uh-huh. And we'd wander out on stage and stand still and sing a bunch of things and turn around and leave. Now people will tell you, you know, be ready to do acrobatics. Are you okay with, you know, doing trapeze work? Are you all right with being upside down? Do you have a fear of heights? Are you okay with animals? There's all kinds of crazy things that happen now, and it's wonderful. But some places are ready for more progressive things and some places are not. And understanding culturally what you need to provide and how far you can push is very, very important in having a success financially, mostly because people will not come otherwise.
Well, that's like rule one of any sort of speech, any presentation is make it about the audience. What is the audience ready to hear? That's a huge part of what I do as a presentation skills trainer is help people analyze who's listening and what do you want from them, so that you can deliver it in a way that they can take it in, that they're ready to take it in. Yes, I remember using a Yiddish word I was living in New York, and I did a speech in Wisconsin to a Rotary group, a suburban Rotary group. And I used a Yiddish word which has a not terribly polite meaning. And in New York, it's just general usage. In Wisconsin, they were mortally offended. That was like one of the worst speeches I've ever given. It's like we realized that I was assuming I was talking to a hip New York urban audience, and this audience didn't get it at all. And my jokes weren't funny because they didn't get it, Right. Yeah. If you're telling a story. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a fine line to walk, isn't it? You definitely need to, I always say that, know your audience. Yeah. And part of what I love to do, and you alluded to this earlier, I do love to speak to the audience. I do love to get out there and just talk to people about this. Part of what my social media presence has been to be very open and allow folks to just chat with me. I'm very interested in what they have to say. I don't have to agree with them, but I'm interested to know what people are after, because that helps me do my job. So that is a huge part of it, isn't it? But you also have to know, as far as what you can deliver, where is the line that you can walk, and how far can you push a bit to just expand people's thinking? I think the danger is going too far, obviously. So how do you deal with that?
Oh, I think about it a lot. I work in Europe a lot. And so fortunately for me, English is the international language of business. So when I'm working with somebody, we are talking about English, which is the language I don't have to think about. But because I'm also fluent in French, German, Italian, and Spanish, I can, if they say, I don't know how to say this, I just say it in Italian. Okay, then here's how you want to do that. But I'm also very careful to choose references that make sense to an international audience. I'm not going to refer to an American children's show, for instance, or American slang. And there are plenty of times where I will use a simpler word rather than sounding very educated and polysyllabic, and I have a very extensive vocabulary, but I will choose simpler words because they're easier to understand, especially when you are listening instead of reading. Right. So that's another, diction is another big thing that opera singers have to learn. And talk about that a lot. Here's another big topic, which is when you go off to do, say, you're singing Brunhilde in Germany, you're leaving your family behind. And this is the work-life balance. This is something that happens with men and women in business, where either mom or dad is gone a lot. How do you deal with it? How do you see your colleagues dealing with it?
Do it's very interesting. When I started, I wasn't married. I had no children. And I'm old enough to say that the internet was not a thing. Yeah. I still remember the...
Me neither, yeah.
I know, but I still remember the commercial saying, shh, the information superhighway is coming. And I thought, ooh, what's that? But once that arrived, it changed everything for parents in our business. And for family, I mean, we don't have to be parents, we travel, we leave partners behind. This is a difficult situation. When I first started, I spoke to my colleagues who were older and more experienced. And, I said, how do you do this? And they said, we have incredible phone bills. Incredible phone bills. And I remember having this conversation in Tokyo the first time I was there with a colleague. And I thought, I'll never be able to do this. And then suddenly Skype was a thing. And now we have a million different ways to keep in touch via video chat. And I mean, you know, you and I are not around the corner from each other, but we are having this conversation. I hop on and have a coffee with my colleagues who are in Japan and New Zealand, and that's fine and normal now. That, as my daughters say, it is wonderful, but it's not a hug.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a really difficult thing. I know that this is my job and this is the way that I have to make money. It is my career. It is my job. This is the way I go to work and I pay my bills. But, you know, getting in the car and leaving for the airport, I can't tell you the percentage of times that I got in the car and cried all the way to the airport. You know, and my kid leaving my children crying at the door, it's just, this is definitely a difficult situation as far as finding the balance. What I tell everybody in my business when they ask me, you know, when is the right time to do this? How should I do this? I say there's never a right time. There's never a time that having a family, having a partner will not turn your life upside down. That's your life, though. That's the part you need to keep in mind. And the balance, it is a game of percentages, and you get to choose what those are. You know, if you feel 90 career, 10 family is your thing, cool. You feel 50-50 is your thing, cool. You feel 45, you know, you could make anything up. It's just what is right for you, and no one will have the same situation as you. So it is something that is malleable, and it changes for me constantly. I've been doing it for 26 years. I'm a bit more ready to spend more time at home, I'll be honest. Luckily,
well, that's what, yeah. So here we are in the middle of a pandemic, sheltering in place. Yes. Yes. And so have your girls said, okay, Mom, time for you to hit the road again? Are they?
You know, at the beginning, all I heard was, you're never here enough and blah, 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 blah. Last week, they were screaming at me. And I thought, yes, doing it right. You know, you start, be careful what you ask for. They're like, you know, so, but I mean, I have teenagers, so they either love me or hate me no matter what.
Yes. Well, it's, you know, it's a wonderful thing about teenagers is, you know, about 2021, those darling children that you raised will actually come back.
This is what I hear. I'm very excited about it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, right. One more thing I want to ask you, and let's talk about image and being a woman. In, you know, we talked about Artis Kranick and Beverly Sills beforehand of going from the diva image to the leader image. And how do you deal with that? You actually had to deal with image early on because as a soprano, you are tall. And it's sort of not supposed to be, you know, how do you deal with being taller than the guys?
Oh, I'm so used to this. And my favorite thing about doing opera was, you know, well, you can't be taller than the men. And I said, let me tell you how many guys that I've dated were ready to climb up the tree. It's fine. It's not a thing. But, you know. But
it's perception, you see. That's the thing.
It is all perception.
It's all about perception. And that's absolutely how personal branding and how you dress and how you look is still something that people notice and people make assumptions about you.
Well, this is exactly it. And so what I try to do and what I learned is that I can use this to my advantage. In the beginning, you know, I'm 6 feet tall, and I have gone between being relatively, I would never say I was thin, but I was curvy. And I've gone back and forth between curvy and plus size. And you know, you see a 6 foot plus size lady coming at you, that can be, you know, people take that as intimidating. I am the least intimidating person on the planet. So I was uncomfortable with people finding me that way. I leaned very hard into my humor to try to break the ice for a long time until I realized that, in fact, it gave me, it put me in a powerful position. I could make a decision about how I want to hold people's attention. I could be that person who jokes around and puts everybody at ease. Or I could be someone who stands up straight and demands attention and commands attention from people. I did it on stage all the time, but somehow in my personal life, I wasn't able to do that. And it's funny because on stage, we pretend.
Oh, yeah.
We become somebody else. I learned very quickly that, in fact, I could adopt a similar way of life off stage and turn it on and off. So when I would have to go into auditions, say, it's the same thing as going into like a meeting with a small amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would walk in, I'd be nervous about walking in the door. There are no costumes. There's no pit, there's no scenery, there's nothing to let people not see me.
And you
But
are
in
the
fact,
product too. You are selling yourself. Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's a job interview.
Absolutely. Every single time it's a job interview. And walking in the door, before I opened the door, I got very nervous about it at one point. And before I opened the door, I reminded myself of exactly who I wanted to walk in the door. And I picked bits of different characters because of their attributes. I decided I'm going to think about this character because she is very powerful. I'm going to think about this woman because she is wise. I'm going to think about this woman because she's playful but smart. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to stand up straight and go in there and be all of these people. And the funny thing is, I wasn't being all of these people. I was just pulling those things out of myself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And then you offer, what you are offering is your gift to the listeners. So that's the other thing that I talk to women all the time, where they think if I'm asking for a job, I am begging for something that I need that's going to hurt them, rather than saying, I am an asset, a gift, and I am going to be the answer to your problem.
Everybody wants you to be the answer to their problems, or they wouldn't be having the interview. They wouldn't be coming to listen to you speak. They want you to be able to solve the problems, and they believe in you the minute you walk in the door. If you walk in and understand that, you put yourself in a position that is so very different than walking in and feeling like you're hoping this will work out.
You know, it actually goes back to make it about them. Because if you're there hoping it's going to work out and feeling less than, you're stuck in your own head.
That's right.
As opposed to making it about them, and what I can offer you is my skill, my talent, my presence.
That's right. And it's funny because it requires a bit of ego to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I hate that the word egotistical has such a negative connotation. There is excessive ego, but if we all don't tap into that bit of ego, we can't really function. We can't show people who we are.
Yes.
You know, there is a line to walk. There's always, I keep talking about the line to walk. There's always a line to walk.
I call it the tightrope.
Come right up to it and be on the line.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Christine Goerke, this is so much fun. I'm so happy
to talk with you.
I know. I just so excited to hear what's happening next, and really, I may have to have you on again a little bit, and just and do maybe a follow-up interview, because I'm sure there's a lot more that we can talk about.
I would love that. Thank
you so much. This has been Speakers Who Get Results. If you had fun, please go to you can sign up, leave us a review, find us on YouTube and like us, subscribe. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host. We'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.